Alexandria, Egypt, October 12, 2023. The modern Bibliotheca Alexandrina stands as a magnificent disk of granite and glass facing the Mediterranean Sea, a tribute to the ancient library that once held the sum of human knowledge. It is a place of tourism, study, and quiet reverence. On this particular Tuesday, a British family, the Harrisons from Cambridge, were joining a guided tour. David Harrison, a software engineer, and his wife, Elena, a librarian, an irony they often joked about, held the hands of their 5-year-old son, Julian. Julian was a frail child, pale and quiet, often overwhelmed by loud noises. He wore noise-canceling headphones and clutched a worn-out notebook where he usually drew meaningless spirals. The tour guide, a charismatic Egyptologist named Dr. Omar Fayed, was standing in the main reading hall, gesturing grandly. And so, Dr. Fayed announced to the group, the great library was tragically burned to the ground, likely by the forces of Julius Caesar or perhaps later by religious zealots. All the scrolls, the wisdom of the ancients, turned to ash, lost forever. Suddenly, a small, high-pitched laugh cut through the lecturer's speech. It wasn't a child's giggle, it was a scoff, dry, cynical, and utterly devoid of joy. The group turned. Julian had taken off his headphones. He had dropped his notebook. He was staring at Dr. Fayed with an intensity that made the adults step back. "Julian, shh," Elena whispered, trying to pull him back. Julian stepped forward. He walked with a limp he didn't usually have, favoring his left leg. He pointed a trembling finger at the guide. "Ignorance is a comfortable blanket, isn't it?" Julian said, but he didn't speak with his usual soft British accent. His voice was raspy, authoritative, and accented with a cadence that sounded vaguely Greek. Dr. Fayed smiled nervously. "Excuse me, young man." Julian closed his eyes and took a deep breath, inhaling the air of the library. "It smells wrong. Too much ozone, too much plastic. Where is the smell of the papyrus? Where is the scent of the cedar oil?" Then he opened his eyes and looked directly at Dr. Fayed. "It did not burn, Omar. Do you think we were fools? Do you think Xenodotus and Callimachus would leave the greatest treasure of mankind unprotected? We knew the Romans were coming. We knew the Zealots were coming with their torches." The boy switched languages. He began to speak in a rapid, fluid tongue that echoed off the granite walls. It wasn't Arabic. It wasn't modern Greek. Dr. Fayed dropped his laser pointer. His mouth fell open. He recognized the language from his doctoral studies, though he had never heard it spoken aloud. It was Koine Greek, the common language of the Hellenistic period, but spoken with an upper-class Ptolemaic dialect. Uk ekauthi, metakinethi, kato apo tengen, kato apo tus nekrus. It was not burned. It was moved beneath the earth, beneath the dead. Julian fell to his knees, grabbing his head as if in severe pain. "The humidity!" he screamed in English. "The humidity is rising in the third chamber. The seals are breaking. If the water touches the gold scrolls, the backup will be corrupted." David Harrison rushed to his son. "Julian, what's wrong?" Julian looked at his father, but there was no recognition in his eyes. "The data stream is fragile, father. You build your castles on silicon and electricity. One flare, one pulse, and you are back in the dark. That is why we hid the stone. That is why I came back." Security guards rushed in as Julian began to convulse, frothing slightly at the mouth, whispering coordinates over and over again. Julian was stabilized at the Alexandria University Hospital. The doctors ran MRI scans, blood tests, toxicology screens. Everything came back normal. Physically, he was a healthy 5-year-old boy, but mentally, he was somewhere else. In the hospital room, while his parents slept in chairs, Julian woke up. He didn't cry. He pulled the IV drip out of his arm, expertly, without causing bleeding, and climbed off the bed. He found a black marker in his mother's purse. He began to draw on the linoleum floor of the hospital room. When David woke up at 4 a.m., the floor was covered. It wasn't just scribbles. It was a blueprint. an intricate, multi-layered architectural schematic of a massive underground complex. There were ventilation shafts, water traps, mirrored corridors for light reflection, and vast hexagonal storage chambers, and labels written in Ancient Greek. David, terrified, took a photo and used Google Lens to translate. The words sent a chill down his spine. Section Alpha, Medicine. Section Beta, Astronomy. Section Gamma, the Forbidden Mechanics. Section Omega, the Future History. Julian, David whispered, shaking his son gently. What is this? Julian looked up. His eyes were heavy, encircled by dark rings. It is the Serapeum extension, the part the archaeologists never found, the part I built. You built? My name was Demetrius of Phalerum, or at least I was his hands. I was the keeper of the keys in the year the comet appeared. We moved the library, 700,000 scrolls. It took us 20 years working at night. We hid them where the dead sleep, because the living are too destructive. David called Dr. Fayed, the tour guide. He didn't know who else to call. You need to see this, he told the Egyptologist. My son, he's drawing maps of things that shouldn't exist. Dr. Fayed arrived an hour later, accompanied by a woman, Dr. Sarah Hemlock, a renowned British archaeologist specializing in the polyatomic era, who happened to be lecturing in Cairo. Dr. Hemlock looked at the floor. She knelt down, tracing the lines of the marker. This layout, she whispered, her voice trembling. It matches the gravitational anomalies we detected with ground-penetrating radar near Pompey's pillar 3 years ago. We thought it was just natural limestone cavities. We didn't dig because the bedrock was too unstable. She turned to Julian. Boy, she said sternly, how do you know about the water traps? No one has used this hydraulic engineering since the 1st century. Julian looked at her with a sneer of intellectual superiority. The water traps are simple, woman. It is the mercury seals you should worry about. If you drill in the wrong spot, you release the vapor. That is why your radar failed. The mercury scatters the signal. Dr. Hemlock rocked back on her heels. The radar had scattered. They had blamed it on equipment malfunction. Where is the entrance? Dr. Hemlock asked, her skepticism vanishing into pure academic lust. Julian pointed to a specific spot on his drawing. The Catacombs of Kom el Shoqafa. The tourist entrance is a decoy. The real path is behind the statue of Anubis, but you cannot open it with a key. It opens with a frequency, a song. The Egyptian government would never authorize a dig based on a child's drawing. Dr. Hemlock knew this, so she called in a favor from a private benefactor, a tech mogul named Silas Vance, who was obsessed with preserving human knowledge. Vance flew in a team of structural engineers and illicit scanning equipment within 24 hours. They bribed the night guards at the Kom el Shoqafa catacombs. It was a risky, career-ending move if they were caught. At 2 a.m., the group, Julian, his terrified parents, Dr. Hemlock, Dr. Fayed, and Vance's security team, descended into the spiraling staircase of the ancient necropolis. The catacombs were damp, smelling of rot and old earth. Julian walked ahead, limping. He didn't need a flashlight. He seemed to navigate by memory. They reached the central chamber, where the statue of Anubis, the jackal-headed god, stood guard in Roman armor. Here, Julian whispered. He approached the statue. He didn't touch it. Instead, he began to hum. It was a low, resonant drone, a sound that vibrated in the chest cavities of everyone present. It wasn't a melody, it was a specific acoustic pitch. As he hit a specific dissonance, the stone base of the statue began to vibrate. Dust fell from the ceiling. Resonance frequency, David whispered, watching his son with wide eyes. He's matching the resonant frequency of the granite. With a grinding sound that echoed like a dying beast, the statue of Anubis didn't move. The floor beneath it did. A circular section of the rock spiraled open like the aperture of a camera lens, revealing a dark, vertical shaft. A blast of stale, dry air hit them. It didn't smell like a tomb. It smelled of cedar, lavender, and old paper. The smell of knowledge, Julian said, a tear rolling down his cheek. It is still safe. They rappelled down, 50 meters, 100 meters, far deeper than any known structure in Alexandria. When their boots hit the ground, they turned on their high-powered floodlights. Dr. Hemlock screamed. They were standing in a hall that stretched for half a mile. The ceiling was supported by columns of translucent alabaster, and on the walls, reaching 30 feet high, were shelves, not made of wood which would rot, but carved directly into the living rock and lined with sheets of gold and treated leather. Thousands of scrolls, metal cylinders, tablets of obsidian. The great library! Dr. Fayad wept, falling to his knees and kissing the dusty floor. It wasn't a myth. They saved it! They really saved it! Julian didn't stop to admire the view. He walked with purpose toward the center of the hall, where a massive desk made of petrified wood stood. "Don't touch the papyrus scrolls," he commanded the adults who were reaching out in wonder. "They are brittle. Look at the golden cylinders. Those are the ones we made for the future." He climbed onto the chair behind the desk. He looked tiny, a 5-year-old boy in a giant seat, but his posture was regal. "We knew a dark age was coming," Julian said, his voice echoing in the vast hall. "We calculated the precession of the equinoxes. We saw the rise of intolerance. We knew that for 1,000 years, man would forget how to reason. So we etched the most important truths onto gold." Dr. Hemlock approached a golden cylinder. She slid the lid off. Inside rolled a sheet of gold foil, etched with microscopic Greek text and diagrams. "This," she squinted at the text, "this is a diagram of a steam engine? No, a steam turbine, attributed to Hero of Alexandria. Hero built it." Julian nodded. "We used it to pump water, but the priests called it magic and forbade it. We hid the plans." Dr. Fayed opened another. "This is a map of the Americas? But this is dated 200 BC. Eratosthenes knew the circumference of the Earth," Julian said boredly. "Do you think we didn't send ships west? We knew about the great continent. We knew about the people of the jaguar." But then, Julian's face darkened. He jumped down from the chair and walked to a separate alcove, protected by a gate made of a strange, non-corrosive black metal. "But this isn't why I woke up," he said ominously. "History is interesting, but it is the future that matters." He pointed to a black obsidian tablet that was unlike the others. It wasn't etched. It looked like a screen. The ancients didn't just look back. We had the oracles, not the drug-addled women of Delphi, the mathematicians. They calculated the cycles of history, the rise and fall of civilizations. It is a mathematical formula. David approached the black tablet. "What does it say, Julian?" Julian touched the stone. "It says that humanity builds its hive mind 3 times. The first time it was built on oral tradition, destroyed by language confusion, Babel. The second time it was built on paper, the library, destroyed by fire. The third time," Julian looked at his father, his eyes wide with fear. "The third time it is built on light and lightning, electricity, internet, and it will be destroyed by the sun. A solar flare." Silas Vance, the tech mogul, stepped forward. "The Carrington event." "Bigger," Julian corrected. "The Carrington event fried telegraph wires. This event, the Great Erasure, it will wipe everything that is magnetic. Your hard drives, your cloud servers, your banking records, your history, your identity." Dr. Hemlock shivered. "When?" Julian traced the star chart etched onto the obsidian. "We calculated the solar maximums. We mapped the heartbeat of the star. The date is fixed." He turned to the group. "August 8th, 2029. On that day, the sun will vomit a coronal mass ejection aimed directly at Earth. The magnetic shield will buckle. It won't kill the people, not directly, but it will kill your memory. Every 0 and 1 will become 0. No internet, no electricity grid, no supply chain, total darkness. A new dark age, deeper than the one before." The silence in the underground hall was heavier than the rock above them. "Why are you telling us this?" David asked, his voice cracking. "If it's inevitable, why come back?" Julian pointed to the golden scrolls. "Because last time we hid the knowledge underground. It slept for 2,000 years while humanity suffered in mud and ignorance. This time, you cannot hide it underground. You must harden it. You must print it. You must carve it in stone. You must move your clown to something that cannot be wiped. He picked up a small, heavy cylinder. This contains the blueprint for a shield, a way to harden your grid against the flare. Archimedes designed the theory. Tesla, who was one of us, a returning soul, tried to build it. You have 5 years to finish it. The ground began to shake. Not an earthquake, but the resonance of the tomb reacting to the open air. "The seals are degrading," Julian said urgently. "We opened the vacuum. The humidity is entering. We must leave. Take the cylinder of Archimedes, leave the rest. The rest is safe here." Dr. Hemlock tried to grab more scrolls, but the walls began to groan. "Leave it!" Julian screamed with the voice of a commander. "Greed will bury you. Take the shield and go!" They ran. They scrambled up the ropes, the cylinder clutched in Silas Vance's hands. As they reached the Anubis statue, the floor spiraled shut with a deafening boom. Dust billowed out, choking them. When they emerged into the Cairo night, sirens were wailing. The police had found the trucks. Vance's security team hurried them into black SUVs. They sped away before the authorities could detain them. Back in the hotel room, the adrenaline faded. Julian sat on the bed, swinging his legs. He looked small again. "Julian?" Elena asked. The boy looked up. "Mommy, can I have some juice? I'm thirsty." The ancient intelligence was gone. The limp was gone. He was just Julian. Silas Vance disappeared 2 days later. He took the golden cylinder with him. Rumors say he's building a massive facility in the Nevada desert. Not a bunker for people, but a data center shielded by miles of lead and rock, utilizing the Archimedes design found in the scroll. Dr. Hemlock published a paper about theoretical underground structures in Alexandria, but was laughed out of academia. She retired to a quiet cottage in Scotland. David and Elena Harrison returned to Cambridge. They monitored Julian closely. He is a normal boy now. He likes Minecraft and soccer. But sometimes, when there's a storm and lightning flashes across the sky, Julian freezes. He stares out the window with a look of terrifying sadness. Last week, David checked the family computer history. He found that Julian had been Googling something. Not toys, not games. He had searched for NASA Solar Cycle 25 predictions and how to preserve data on quartz glass. And he had drawn one last picture on the fridge, a black sun and a date, 08/08/2029. The Library of Alexandria wasn't destroyed. It was waiting. The warning has been delivered. The digital doomsday is on the calendar. Are your photos printed? Is your money physical? Do you know how to grow food if the internet never comes back on? Julian came back from the dead to tell us one thing. Knowledge is fragile. We built our civilization on a house of cards made of light, and the wind is coming. August 8th, 2029. Tick tock.